Hey, Brigham with Drift here. In this video, 6 things I think you should know about the Cardiff Powgoda. This has quickly become one of my favorite boards of the season, and I'm excited to tell you about it. Before I get into it, check out my specs and my biases below so you know where I'm coming from as a rider. We own the boards we talk about, we get them in a variety of conditions, and most importantly, we get the powder boards into some powder before we tell you what we think. So the first thing I think you should know about this is a little bit about Cardiff. They're a newer brand, they're out of Salt Lake City, and the boards are being made at GP87. And if you've watched my 40 boards in 4 days video, you know that we got on a bunch of Cardiff boards. I was impressed by all of them. Got to talk to their head guy Sam for quite a while, and you should just know these are not catalog boards being picked off the shelf in Asia and getting a pretty graphic slapped on them. These are very well thought out. Sam is thoughtful, meticulous, technical. There's a lot of detail being put into these boards, and one of the cool things with Cardiff is they really started with a focus on backcountry and split boards, and their solids are kind of born from that backcountry focus. And so it's no surprise this has become one of my favorite powder boards to use in the backcountry, but it also excels in the resort, of course. So I don't want to be too much of a fanboy, but I would say the hype is real with Cardiff. Got on 4 of their boards and really liked every one of them. Second thing you should know, these are premium boards with a premium feel and a premium price tag. I would say in general, that's warranted with how they ride, how they feel. The bases are some of the fastest bases I've been on this year. They do discount previous season graphics, and I would say those are a steal and absolutely worth it. The third thing I would mention about this, and each Cardiff that I've been on actually, is that every one of them stuck out to me for how smooth and stable they felt. Now, I wouldn't say that all the boards felt the same, they didn't, but they all had that characteristic, and I know it's not a very useful description, but each time I got on a Cardiff, I was just like, man, this just feels smooth, stable, I have a lot of confidence. I think that's coming from that premium build and the design that they have put into these, and it's just one of my favorite things about Cardiff in general. Fourth thing you should know, you want to know about the float. This is right up there with the best powder specific boards on the market. So it is called the Powgoda, clearly powder focused, but it isn't like the most pure powder board shape. It has some camber, you've got a little bit of a tail. I mean, this is made to be a little more versatile, but it's really close to some of the most dedicated powder boards in float, like the Storm Chaser, the Snow Mollier, the Battalion Surfer, you know, some of these boards behind me, the K2 Special Effects, it's right up there. Again, I got this on some of the deepest days I've ever seen, and it's phenomenal. So you got a couple things going for you. One is a directional flex. It's a little softer in the nose, stiffer in the tail. You got quite a bit of taper. You got a lot of width overall, and especially a big wide nose. But I think probably the most significant is the amount of early rise on this board, and hopefully you can kind of see that. But a lot of boards or a lot of brands will advertise like some early rise for float, but a lot of times that rise starts pretty far down the nose. This thing is like halfway through those front inserts and it starts to rise. It's really a pretty remarkable amount of rise, and it produces just phenomenal float. Steep, low angle, whatever. Again, some of the deepest snow I've been in, and this took care of me. In the deepest lower angle snow, I did set this back all the way and needed that setback. So it's not quite there with something that's gonna sink the tail, like if this were a swallowtail, or if it had even more nose. But in a minute, I'll talk about the benefits of this shape for its overall versatility. In any case, right up there with some of the best POW boards. The fifth thing that I would mention, speaking of how I set it up, The rep told me when I was taking this out for the first time, he talked about like how surfy it was and how you could just turn off of that tail and slash and everything. And you could certainly ride it that way. You could set this up with a narrower stance and go like pausey and really weight that back leg and surf this thing. But what I like, and you've heard me talk about this before, you can also set this up with a more traditional kind of free ride stance, and that's how I rode this. Even when I set it back, I was doing a little bit duck, 23.5 inches wide, my standard like wide kind of power stance that gets my knees bent. I like to weight my feet equally as much as I can. I don't really like standing on that back leg so much. And even with that stance set up, this thing still floats really well. And you can, like I said, you can ride it in that turny, surfy way, or you can kind of treat it a little more like a free ride board and charge with it, which is pretty cool. The sixth thing you should know is that along with being just a phenomenal powder board, it's really remarkable how well this does everywhere else. Even though you have a ton of early rise in the nose, and you might expect at higher speeds and on firm snow or in chunky snow, you might expect that nose to flap around a lot, and it's really impressive. It just really doesn't. You can go pretty hard on this. You've got a bunch of camber underfoot. It's great on a groomer. It's great in tracked out powder. It's pretty good in crud as well. It's surprisingly versatile. And I don't know exactly what it is. It's not like it's the only board out there with some backseat camber and some early rise for float. But really impressed by how this handled on the rest of the mountain, the rest of the time outside of the powder. And it's not just like it manages it. It's like, oh, this is really fun in most conditions. So to me, it's pretty much right there right now at the top of the list of a resort powder board that you can ride for those epic couple of laps in the deep snow, but then it's going to be fun for the rest of the day and even fun for the rest of the week. So it's not going to be, you know, your freestyle board, not dying to get in the air or pop a whole lot. It's more on the damp and smooth side. But other than that, someone looking for a directional board that you can surf and cruise with, or you can kind of point it and charge with and do a little bit of everything and do it pretty well. And especially number one, be awesome when there is that deep powder day. This is a phenomenal option. I really like it and definitely recommend it. That's the Cardiff Powgoda. Thanks for watching. Hit me up in the comments with any questions or thoughts. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next video.